Hey everyone, welcome to the Cruisin' with Phil channel. Sorry for the late video this week. Life is a little crazy around here. Today we're going to talk about Triumph bikes. I just went to a demo day and rode 6 bikes. We're going to talk about all the details, what it's like to ride these bikes, and how they compete with other bikes. If you enjoy the video, please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate that. We're going to run these from least expensive to most, so let's get started. We start with the Speed 400. The Speed 400 has a 398cc single cylinder with 40 horsepower, 27.7 foot-pounds of torque, and a 6-speed transmission. Both wheels are 17 inches. It has a 31.1 inch seat height, 3.4 gallon tank, and weighs 375 pounds. Price is $5,000 on this. As far as riding the bike, you really have to crank the throttle to get good acceleration out of this engine. I did crank it up to about 75 miles per hour to keep up with the group, but it does vibrate a lot at high RPMs, which is not a big surprise considering the size of the engine. While seat height is the same as most of the other similar bikes, it felt higher to me, like I was sitting on top of the bike, not in the bike, if that makes sense. I think that was because of the position of the bars, I'm not sure. I think they were a little bit low. I know this is a Speed 400, it's supposed to be a more sporty classic, but it really didn't feel like that to me. This bike is kind of comparable to the Hunter 350 or Classic 350 from Royal Enfield that I rode about a month ago, but it's lighter and has more power, so has a much better power to weight ratio. The Triumph does cost more, of course, but it's worth it if comparing the two. If you're looking for a small around town bike or beginner bike and want that classic look, this is a decent choice. I personally like the look and riding style of the Classic 350 from Royal Enfield a little bit better, even though I think the Triumph is probably a better quality machine. Next up is the Trident 660. This has a 660cc inline 3 engine with 81 horsepower, 47 foot-pounds of torque, and a 6-speed transmission. It has 17-inch tires as well, a 31.7-inch seat height, 3.7 gallon tank, and weighs 417 pounds. It starts at $8,600. This is called a roadster, but looks more like a regular naked street bike to me. The bike felt top heavy to me as well, even though it was one of the lightest I rode. It is very responsive and has a wide RPM range. It is very agile, takes the corners very well. I felt a small amount of vibration in the seat at times, but nothing serious. It has the most aggressive riding stance of all the Triumphs that I rode. Even though the engine is very capable, for some reason I didn't like the way it was geared or the way it felt. Something about it felt weird or off to me. I think it was the triple cylinder engine instead of the typical parallel twin for a bike this size. I honestly didn't like it. As far as bikes I've ridden this summer, the Suzuki 8S that I rode back a few months ago probably comes the closest. That one had a little bit more of an aggressive stance on it, so it was a little bit less comfortable. But I think I still liked it better. The 8S has a slightly bigger engine with a 776cc parallel twin and costs $300 or $400 more, but it is worth it to me. I'm not a fan of the inline 3 engine. Continuing on to the Tiger Sport 660. This has the same 660cc inline 3 as the Trident, with the same 81 horsepower and 47 foot-pounds of torque, 17-inch tires, 32.8-inch seat height, 4.5 gallon tank, and weighs 455 pounds. Price starts at $9,700. I really wanted to ride the Tiger 850 that was available in the lineup because it has a slightly lower seat height and a little more power, but it was so popular I would have had to wait until the end of the day, and I didn't want to do that. This bike hit the top of my range when it comes to seat height. I think it's the tallest bike I've ridden. All in all, it's a very good ride. The windshield takes the wind off the chest, but that means it throws it right into your face. Only a slight lean forward on the bars. That wasn't bad at all. This bike is well balanced and handles well. Again, we have the inline 3 engine that I don't like. The bike that comes the closest that I've ridden is the Suzuki V-Strom 800. The V-Strom does have a bigger engine, weighs a few pounds more, and costs about $200 more. But the V-Strom seat is about a quarter inch lower. I know the V-Strom 650 is probably technically the competitor for the Tiger Sport 660, but I ride the 650, so comparing to the 800 is the best I can do. Similar to the Trident versus the Suzuki 8S, I would lean towards the V-Strom, even though it is slightly less comfortable due to the inline-3 engine on the Triumph. Next is the Scrambler 900 with a 900cc parallel twin engine with 64 horsepower, 59 foot-pounds of torque, and a 5-speed transmission. It has a 19-inch front tire, 17-inch rear tire, 31.1-inch seat height, 3.2 gallon tank, and weighs 492 pounds. Price starts at $11,500. They had two Scramblers on this ride, the 900 and the 400X. The 400X has a much taller seat height, almost 33 inches. I asked a couple people why, and no one really had an answer. It's annoying because I wanted to ride the 400X to compare it with the Royal Enfield Scram 411, but it was out of my height range. So back to the 900. The Scrambler 900 was a lot of fun to ride. I really don't have much of anything bad to say about it. It felt light despite being almost 500 pounds. It has tons of power and is a really fun ride. I did notice a slight buzz vibration on the seat on occasion, but otherwise fairly smooth. I really don't have anything to compare this to with real-world experience. I haven't ridden any of the Ducati Scramblers, which are probably the biggest competitors to this. I did ride the Royal Enfield Scram 11, which doesn't hold a candle against the 900 in my opinion. Next up is the Bonneville T120. This has a 1200cc parallel twin with 79 horsepower, 77 foot-pounds of torque, and a 6-speed transmission. 18-inch front tire and 17-inch rear tire, 31.1-inch seat height, 3.8 gallon tank, and weighs 520 pounds. Price starts at $12,900. They did have the Bonneville T100 there as well, but since I didn't have time to ride everything, I decided to just ride the T120. I think the best description I have for this bike is smooth as butter. The engine has a great sound to it, has tons of power, but doesn't accelerate super fast. It's a much more relaxed feeling bike. The bike is fairly comfortable, mostly upright riding position. It can easily handle the highways, and should be great for day tripping. Last of the bikes I rode is the Speed Twin 1200. This also has a 1200cc parallel twin, but is tuned much higher with 100 horsepower and 83 foot-pounds of torque. 17-inch tires, 31.9-inch seat height, 3.8 gallon tank, and weighs 476 pounds. Price starts at $13,000. With the lighter weight and higher powered engine, this is definitely designed for more aggressive riding. This bike is really torquey and a lot of fun. It has a good sound to it. It does have a decent lean to the bars to provide that aggressive stance. The seat wasn't all that comfortable for me, and the throttle felt a little sensitive or jerky. It was a fun ride despite that in terms of sportiness, but not all that comfortable. When it comes to these 1200cc bikes, I don't really have any direct competitors to look at least not in the classification of retro or modern classics. I suppose the closest would be the Royal Enfield Interceptor 650 or Continental GT 650, but because of their much smaller engines, they're not really in the same ballpark. There are plenty of other bikes with similar power, such as the Indian Scouts, but they have completely different riding experience and style to them. So if I was to rate these 6 Triumphs, at the bottom would be the Speed 400, 5th and 4th would be the Trident 660 and Tiger Sport 660, 3rd and 2nd are almost tied, but I gave 3rd place to the Speed Twin 1200 and 2nd to the Scrambler 900, and then 1st place for me goes to the Bonneville T120 with a super smooth, fun ride. So there it is, my first experience riding Triumph bikes. Let me know your thoughts and comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one.